My boss invited me to play golf, so I'm off. My husband said, just before our son's middle school entrance ceremony was about to start. My husband, who has never done household chores or parenting, has never properly attended our son's school events. However, seeing many families attend the elementary school graduation ceremony together, I asked my husband to join me for the middle school entrance ceremony. Usually, he would brush off everything with "I have work," but this time, he took a day off for the ceremony. I was surprised that he actually took the day off. I thought it was a good idea to ask him, as both our son and my mother-in-law were happy to hear he would be attending. Yet, as the time for the ceremony drew near, I couldn't find my husband anywhere. When I called him, I couldn't believe what he said. Despite having taken a day off for our son's entrance ceremony, he had just decided to go play golf with his boss. I was stunned by his actions and couldn't understand what he was thinking. But I knew I had to be there to witness our son's proud moment. Entering middle school is a testament to our son's brilliant growth. It was when I was watching our son. A certain person visited the golf course where my husband was. As a result, my husband ended up pale and trembling.
Why are you here?
My name is Chloe. I'm a 40-year-old office worker. While living with my husband and son, I've started a management position this year and have been busy both professionally and personally. My husband is Joseph, who is 2 years older than me. Our son Lucas is soon to graduate from elementary school. We're a full-time working family, and I returned to work about 6 months after giving birth to Lucas. The main reason was that we were lucky to get him into daycare at the start of the fiscal year. I loved my job and missed it even when I was on maternity leave. I was planning to return to work without taking full parental leave when we got the notification from the daycare. I remember looking forward to getting back to work. However, looking back on that time, when I was juggling work and family while sending my son to daycare, it was hectic. I was always running against time and frequently called by the daycare. There were many times I thought I couldn't handle it anymore. My mother-in-law was always there to help. She lived a few minutes' walk from our house and would pick up Lucas from daycare. I couldn't take him to the hospital when he was sick. My father-in-law had passed away from illness before Lucas turned 1. So, my mother-in-law lived alone and always told me, "You can rely on me anytime," and she truly was a big help. I relied on her a lot, but because we raised my son together, my mother-in-law and I have built a very good relationship. My folks live a plane ride away, and since my brother and his wife live with them, we're not really in a give-and-take relationship. That's why my mother-in-law's presence is such a blessing, and she's a real pillar of support for me. On the other hand, my husband, who should be my partner in all this. It's unbelievable that he's the son of such a kind mother, considering he does neither housework nor parenting. When our son was just a baby who could only cry, if I was holding and soothing him, my husband would mutter "so noisy" and click his tongue, moving to another room. He gets grumpy when my mother-in-law and I are taking care of our son, and he won't even change diapers, saying I can't deal with the mess. Even when it's his turn to feed the baby, he'd say, "Are you done?" I'm tired, and quit halfway through. Even if I'm swamped with taking care of our son and work, to the point where I can't even wash dishes, hang laundry, or tidy up toys, my husband just adds to the mess, piling up dirty dishes, increasing the laundry, and kicking toys around as he walks. I've tried to talk to him about his behavior. I even changed my approach and asked for help in a more pleading way. But he just gets annoyed and ignores me. There was never any improvement. If anything, he'd just click his tongue and lash out at things even more. So, I stopped trying to get him to change and decided not to expect anything from him. Even if I spend a lot of time and effort trying to communicate what I want from him in terms of parenting and housework, if there's no result, it only leaves me exhausted. In a life with no time or energy to spare, I didn't want to add more stress. If I don't consider him as part of the equation from the start, I won't be bothered when he does nothing. I think now, that was a way to protect my own mental state, which was on the brink from being so busy and sleep-deprived. Seeing how my husband was, even my mother-in-law thought it wasn't good and gently scolded him. Very gently. Joseph, Chloe is tired, too. Why don't you take a turn holding Lucas? He's so cute, after all. I'm more tired from work. That's her job. But my husband didn't listen to his mother's words, dismissing them and retreating to the bedroom. He has this way of looking down on women, saying things like, because you're a woman or for a woman, you sure. He'd often make such remarks about female bosses or colleagues at work, which I thought might stem from an inferiority complex, but come to think of it, he said similar things about looking down on his mother. Since she's been a homemaker her whole life, only capable of housework and childcare, might as well let her do it. That was his response when I mentioned feeling guilty for always relying on my mother-in-law and wanting to get her something nice for Mother's Day. He said that and immediately looked down at his smartphone. I always felt that my mother-in-law's meticulous and thoughtful approach to housework and childcare was incredible. Feeling all the more so because I knew I wasn't cut out for it and couldn't manage it myself. My mother-in-law was always calm, kind, and smiling at my son. Her housework was always done efficiently and quickly. It wasn't just her years of experience, I thought her planning skills were exceptional. Her ability to anticipate the future and manage everything while preparing for unforeseen circumstances was admirable. And yet, without recognizing my mother-in-law's greatness, my husband looked down on her. Chloe, I'm sorry. And my mother-in-law would apologize for her son Joseph's behavior. I don't think she should be the one to apologize, but she always tries to cover for and protect him. My husband is the only son his parents had wanted and had after much longing, and it seems he was quite spoiled. According to him, he was often scolded by his father, but his mother never scolded him. But from what I've seen, his father only pointed out the most basic common sense things, and it was far from what I'd call scolding. Yet, my husband would sulk or get down, so he probably thought he was being scolded. I didn't get to spend much time with my father-in-law, so I can't confidently say I fully understood what kind of person he was. But he wasn't a hot-tempered man. Rather, like my mother-in-law, he seemed to care deeply for his son, my husband, and was very devoted. It's probably more accurate to say that he felt stricter compared to my mother-in-law, but for my husband, being scolded by his father might have been a turning point for changing his behavior. That's why my husband now does whatever he pleases. His father has passed away, and he looks down on his mother. He has no interest in listening to me. I've given up on trying to communicate anything to my husband. I often hear that husbands need to be raised, but I just don't have the capacity to take care of him. Both my mother-in-law and I have stopped trying to correct him or ask for anything, and we're the ones raising our son. As a result, my husband freely goes out drinking and sometimes doesn't come home. He works in a department with almost no overtime, so he could technically leave on time every day. However, he's never even considered coming home early to take care of our son or do any household chores. In fact, I earn more than he does, and the money he contributes to our household is only about 2/3 of what I bring in. Despite this, he freely spends and doesn't come home, showing a complete lack of awareness. To be honest, I hate even thinking that such a man is Lucas's father. Getting divorced wouldn't particularly trouble me, and if it meant less stress, it might not be such a bad idea. However, I hesitated to take the step of divorce because I wondered if Lucas might not want his father erased from his home life. On a sunny and warm day in March, Lucas's elementary school graduation ceremony took place. Since the ceremony was on a weekday, my husband excused himself with a simple impossible and didn't attend, but I took a day off and went with my mother-in-law. It's amazing to think that the boy who was once so small at birth is now about as tall as me. Remembering his growth over the years, my mother-in-law and I were moved to tears. After the ceremony, the children came out to the schoolyard. It was their free time now, and they seemed to be taking the opportunity to take photos with friends and say their goodbyes. Not all of them would be going to the same middle school, so they were probably making the most of their last moments together in elementary school. "Mom, can you take my backpack home for me?" Lucas came over to me and my mother-in-law and asked. "Of course. Here, take your phone too." "Thanks." The school had informed us that during this time in the schoolyard, It was okay to use cameras, phones, or tablets for taking pictures. Parents were advised to bring these devices and hand them over in the schoolyard, with reminders to adhere to internet literacy and such. The kids were probably using this time to take commemorative photos and exchange contact information. Mom and Grandma can head home first. All right. Be careful on your way back. Don't worry, we'll all go back together. Lucas glanced around casually, and his gaze landed on his classmates who were happily chatting with their parents. Despite being a weekday, most families had both parents attending the graduation ceremony. Maybe Lucas, too, had wished for his father to be there. When he was younger, despite having such a father, he was always clinging to him, saying, "Daddy," but now, with a father who neither spends time with him nor is hardly ever home, Lucas has become quite cold towards him. Even when they are in the same house, Lucas barely speaks to his father. Seeing how many families had both parents attend events like this, I might have felt a bit envious. All right, I'm off then. With only his diploma and phone in hand, Lucas dashed off. Watching his back, I thought about talking to my husband. Hey, could you come to Lucas's middle school entrance ceremony? I brought it up to my husband when he came home late that day. He probably forgot that today was the graduation ceremony. He hadn't mentioned a word about our son, not in the morning before leaving the house nor now when he came back smelling faintly of alcohol. The entrance ceremony is on a weekday, right? Today, at the graduation, most families attended together. I was pretty much the only mom there alone. I got a lot of "couldn't your husband take the day off" from the other parents. My husband, though indifferent to his family, me, and our son, is all about appearances. He seemed to catch the implication that "so, your husband puts work before his kid," from my words, and I saw a slight frown form between his eyebrows. In reality, the conversation was more along the lines of "is Dad at work?" But nobody is into another family's business like that around here. So, I deliberately phrased it that way. I implied, normally, dads take a day off for their kids' graduation, but ours was the exception. Lucas seemed to envy them, so I was hoping you could make it next time. Whether or not Lucas actually felt envious, I can't say for sure. But being the odd one out in a crowd can't be comfortable. Will you apply for a day off? Well, probably. His response was lackluster, but after pressing him a bit more, I decided to go to bed. They say good news comes to those who wait, and there's work tomorrow. Then, the next evening, while at work as usual, I got a message from my husband. I got the day off for the entrance ceremony. I was surprised he acted so quickly, considering our conversation just yesterday. Perhaps my remark about being the only family without a dad present at the graduation had an impact. When I got home, I told Lucas. Both Mom and Dad will go to the entrance ceremony. Lucas looked surprised, but slowly seemed to digest the news. It might be the first time his dad has ever attended a school event. So he could be a bit shaken, but he seemed happy, and his expression softened. I also messaged my mother-in-law that my husband would be attending the entrance ceremony. She was originally planning to come with us anyway. I could tell she was happy from her message back. She had apologized for my husband's behavior so many times before. Seeing him act like a father must be a relief. For her, the opportunity for 3 generations to celebrate together must be precious. I felt glad I had communicated properly with my husband. It would be wonderful if we could all greet the entrance ceremony with happy hearts. On the day of Lucas's entrance ceremony, I was walking to a store in my neighborhood. Because, as I was leaving, I snagged my stockings. I hadn't worn such thin stockings recently, so I carelessly caught them with my rough, dry fingers. So, I decided to leave home early, buy new stockings at the store, and then head to the middle school. My husband said he would go directly to the office after the entrance ceremony, planning to bike to the station for a direct route. Therefore, he left the house later than I did, who was walking. Don't forget to lock up, and with that, I left before him. After securing new stockings and carefully putting them on, I made my way to the middle school again. Arriving at the school, I saw many parents registering and entering the venue. There were more parents than in elementary school due to the increased number of students. It was very lively. The kids had gone to school earlier. They were probably now with their new class, teacher, and classmates.
Chloe?
Oh, hi. I had just finished checking Lucas's class and registering when my mother-in-law called out to me. It was good that we found each other easily.
Where's Joseph? Hasn't he arrived yet? He said he'd come by bike, so I left the house before him. Oh, is that so? Let's look around then.
We checked the bike parking area and the entrance of the gym. But we couldn't find my husband. The deadline for entering was approaching. I took out my phone and called my husband.
Hello? Where are you?
I'm driving.
Why?
By car? To work? But he was supposed to go to work after the entrance ceremony. And he shouldn't have parking at work if he drove.
I got invited to golf by my boss. He noticed yesterday that I took the day off. What?
According to my husband, his boss called him while he was preparing at home. He was invited to play at a golf course not too far from our house, and so he quickly got ready for golf and left. I was so frustrated that I couldn't find the words to respond. I was too angry and astonished, and my energy just drained away, leaving me speechless.
You took a day off for Lucas's entrance ceremony, right?
Yeah, but it's nearby.
Golf or your child's entrance ceremony, which do you think is more important?
I gotta hang up now. The call abruptly ended, and I was left in shock. I thought I knew he was no good, but I didn't realize he was this terrible.
Chloe? What happened to Joseph?
My mother-in-law's voice brought me back to reality. Lucas was looking forward to it. I had unnecessarily raised his hopes, only to betray them. I shouldn't have tried to get my husband to attend from the start. Those thoughts were swirling in my mind. In that state, I told my mother-in-law everything about the conversation. Can you leave it to me? After listening to my story, my mother-in-law said just that in a low voice. Looking closely, I noticed her hand holding her bag was slightly trembling.
Are you all right? Sorry, Chloe, you go watch Lucas's proud moment,
she said before turning on her heel and walking away. From her words earlier, it seemed she wouldn't watch the entrance ceremony either. Honestly, I wanted to go back home too. The emotional shock felt like physical fatigue weighing on my shoulders. But Lucas was expecting his parents to be there. If both of us were absent, how heartbroken would he be? So, at least I had to properly witness how much my son had grown. Today was supposed to be a joyful day. I took a deep breath and made my way to the gym where the entrance ceremony was being held. After the ceremony ended without any issues and I had finished everything, I met up with Lucas. I couldn't tell if he had seen me during the ceremony. But once we were in the schoolyard for dismissal, it was obvious that his father wasn't there. However, Lucas didn't mention anything about it. I couldn't bring myself to tell him about his father's actions. It was too cruel. And I didn't want to make excuses that he was at work or anything like that. Without touching on that subject, I was discussing with Lucas where we could eat lunch. My phone in my bag started vibrating. Pulling it out, I saw a call from my mother-in-law.
Hello? Chloe? I'm sorry for suddenly disappearing. Has the entrance ceremony finished? Yes, we were just talking about where to go for lunch. Could you come home after you've eaten? I'm at your house with Joseph.
What? Was my husband back already? But he said he was going to play golf. Normally, if he went out to golf, he wouldn't be back for the entire day.
Shall we go home right away?
No need to rush. It's lunchtime. Go eat something.
What about you? I'll figure something out. Don't worry about me.
Indeed, it was already lunchtime, and Lucas said he was hungry. I didn't feel like enduring hunger just to see my husband's face.
Then, we'll eat and come back right away.
Take your time. Taking my mother-in-law's words to heart, we went to eat Lucas's favorite pizza before heading home. Sure enough, there was a car in the carport. It seemed my husband had come back. I unlocked the door and opened it. Something could be heard from the living room.
I just can't understand. I'd like to crack open your head and see what you're thinking.
Gently opening the living room door with Lucas, we were startled by the loud voice. To my surprise, it was my mother-in-law, whom I've never seen raise her voice like this before. My husband was sitting, his face pale and trembling. In front of him stood my mother-in-law, a stark contrast to her usual calm demeanor, looking furious.
Welcome home.
Noticing me and Lucas frozen near the door, my mother-in-law greeted us with her usual tone and expression. Though I felt relieved, my husband remained bowed and trembling.
Lucas, I'm sorry we couldn't attend your entrance ceremony. I had to go catch Joseph.
My mother-in-law apologized to Lucas. Wait, had to go catch him?
What do you mean? I went to the golf course, grabbed him by the scruff of his neck and brought him back. What?
I couldn't imagine my mother-in-law doing such a thing. But since my husband was here, it must be true.
You managed to bring him back. I told his colleagues at the golf course he was supposed to have taken the day off for his son's entrance ceremony today, but suddenly disappeared to go golfing. Don't you think he's a terrible father? I see. Initially, Joseph was all, this is also part of my job. But then one of the seniors there got angry, saying, it's a milestone for your son. What are you doing?
Perhaps it was the boss who had invited him to golf. He probably didn't know the reason for the day off, and he must have been shocked too. Plus, it was good that his colleagues got to see his true colors. Serves him right.
They told him, go right now. So, I dragged him away just like that. Wow. He must have been quite surprised when I showed up. He let out such a pathetic scream. It's embarrassing for a man his age.
My mother-in-law sighed. The phrase "a mother's strength" came to my mind. I couldn't be more thankful to her. I couldn't have brought him back or had a serious conversation about this matter on my own.
Thank you. How could I leave a scumbag who would rather play golf than see his son's proud moment?
But it was all so shocking. I couldn't believe my usually gentle mother-in-law did such a thing. Seeing how scared my husband was, it must be true that when a person who rarely gets angry does, it's frightening indeed.
Were you playing golf?
Lucas asked his father. His voice made my husband look up, but Lucas's expression was blank.
I didn't have high hopes, but I'm thoroughly disappointed. I don't have a father, and I don't need one.
His voice was cold. With that, Lucas went upstairs, and the sound of his room door slamming echoed. My husband looked shocked. He deserved to be told off, and he had no right to make that face.
I don't need a son like this either.
My mother-in-law added insult to injury.
All you ever do is what you want. Are you even capable of holding down a job as an adult?
I am.
You can't do your job, so you resort to sucking up to your boss to survive, I bet. That's not. How pitiful. It's only natural for your child to disown you. You're shallow and insubstantial.
My mother-in-law's sharp words cut through my husband like a knife. Her usually calm demeanor made her attack all the more potent. My husband's head dropped lower and lower.
I can't leave this sorry excuse of a man with my precious grandson and daughter-in-law.
Leave this house immediately.
Mom! Don't call me mother. It makes my skin crawl. Hey! You must have some clothes in that golf bag of yours. Take it and get out.
I had no role to play in this scene. True to her word, my mother-in-law kicked my husband out. She dragged him by his clothes, kicked him out the door, closed it, and locked it. Without a key, my husband couldn't re-enter the house.
Oops, I guess I showed you an embarrassing side of me.
My mother-in-law said with a shy laugh as she turned around. Somehow, all the tension left my shoulders, and I couldn't help but laugh too. About 10 days after the tumultuous day of my son's entrance ceremony, my husband and I were sitting opposite each other at the dining table. I had received a message from him the day before saying, "I want to talk." This was the first contact since he had been kicked out of the house.
I was wrong. I'm truly sorry,
he said, and I watched with a cold gaze. After that incident, I had a lot of talks with my mother-in-law and son, and we had already decided what to do next.
Let's start over. From now on, I'll.
There's no from now on. I interrupted him and laid the divorce papers on the table.
What?
We're getting a divorce.
Wait, just wait, from now on I'll.
You're not needed in our lives. But you will fulfill your responsibilities. Next to the divorce papers, I placed several photographs. Upon seeing them, my husband's eyes widened, and he gasped. These photos were evidence of his affair. There were pictures of him walking with another woman, entering a hotel, going into a condo with her, and he entered alone. All the photos clearly showed his face. My mother-in-law had hired a detective agency, and she handed over all their findings to me. I had previously mentioned to her that my husband sometimes didn't come home. Hearing this, she secretly had him investigated. Perhaps this was why she stormed the golf course. Her patience had snapped. Regardless, I decided to make good use of these investigation results.
So, this lady is a night worker, huh?
Unfortunately for you, it seems she's found someone better than you.
What? No, that's not.
He quickly fell apart at a little provocation. Well, with such concrete evidence, any attempt to hide it would be futile.
After you were thrown out here, you rolled into her place, right?
She has another place to live besides this house, you know.
What?
It seems a generous gentleman has rented a condo for her. After being kicked out of the house, my husband contacted her, and she let him stay in her place for a while. However, the lifestyle of a woman who works at night and a 9-to-5 worker are two different. It's natural to live like ships passing in the night, but my husband hadn't realized she was hardly ever home. After all, they usually met at her workplace, and he could only go back to the place with her when he managed to book her for the after hours. It's no wonder he hadn't noticed. It turns out this apartment was meant for her work, just being used to entertain special clients like my husband. Unaware of such details, my husband was overjoyed that she had accepted him and secured a temporary residence, but unfortunately, the beautiful night butterfly was far more cunning. And there he was, trying to win me back while living off his affair partner. I can't begin to understand what was going through his mind to act this way.
You must have thought I knew nothing to dare suggest we start over. No, I mean, really, from now on, I'll do it properly.
I told you there's no from now on.
I'm tired of hearing it.
Chloe. Let's settle the future through lawyers. The divorce papers will be collected by the lawyer, so have them ready, I said, standing up. I'm not interested in his endless excuses. I'm not at my leisure.
My son and I won't live here anymore.
Please enjoy your solitude. I left the house keys on top of the divorce papers and walked away. He didn't say anything more. My son and I had already rented a new place close enough to not change his school district. It's also not far from my mother-in-law's house, so our relationship with her remains unchanged. My son and I are living more freely than ever. I wish we had done this sooner. Afterward, I made sure to demand child support, finalizing the divorce. Because of that, he was scorned by her, and it seems he got banned from the club where she worked. My husband was devastated to learn his infidelity was discovered, was toyed with by his mistress, and then dumped. The divorce discussions with the lawyer dealt him a significant blow. At work, he was rumored to be a terrible parent for choosing golf over his son's entrance ceremony, leading to cold treatment from his colleagues. Whether because of the rumor or his actual performance, he was demoted and sidelined to a more insignificant position. His income plummeted, but due to child support payments, he's maintaining his income through double jobs. He occasionally calls my mother-in-law asking for financial help, but she curtly refuses. My son and I, busy yet cooperating, are living a happy life. My son has joined the soccer club in middle school and is rapidly improving. There's an upcoming tournament, and he's been selected as the member. My mother-in-law and I plan to cheer for him. Our relationship with my mother-in-law remains as strong as ever. Although my son now relies less on her due to his busy club activities, we make time to visit her regularly on days off. To me, my mother-in-law is still a pillar of support. I hope to keep this close relationship with her forever. I'm at my happiest now. I can say that with confidence.